Well, happy 2018. It's New Year's Day. I've already been out for my first flight of the year and about froze my feet off. It was 16 degrees at the field with a little bit of wind, and then the wind started to pick up and it was freezing. I had a good flight with my little glider that's powered, and I had gloves on while I was flying, and it was still freezing. So I got my last flight in yesterday, and I got my first flight in today, so it's already starting off to be a good year. Thought I would give you guys a little bit of an update. I have been having a lot of fun with my family over the holiday, and I have been able to work on a great project with my son. He has a Raspberry Pi 3 and a screen that I was able to take a few hours and design a case for. We put it together and he's loving that. So now we can look for future modifications like a speaker and a battery, and we'll get all that put together later. I also, for Christmas, got some new gimbals for my Tyrannus, and I thought I'd take a second and talk about the Tyrannus that I own. When I first bought it, the one thing that I wanted was my sliders on the side. I'm a thumb pilot, and I like to use my index fingers for sliders, for flaps, and other things like that. But I did not like the gimbals. I originally flew on a JR radio, and for those who know, JR makes fantastic radios. Unfortunately, I found out that on the 26th of December in 2017, they filed for bankruptcy protection. So JR is no more. However, their gimbals that I took out of my JR radio, that radio was from 1996. Those gimbals were better than the original Tyrannus gimbals. But they worked great, but I wanted some better precision. I wanted something newer. The potentiometers could be getting old and worn, and I didn't want to risk losing any of my models. So I got the M9 gimbals with the Hall effect sensors, and they're great. The stick ends, some people have been complaining about how pokey they are. Frankly, they need to get in the build mode a little bit better. My calloused hands, they seem to be just fine. But the one thing that is noticeably different is the pivot point for the stick is roughly 4 millimeters to the front of the transmitter, and I preferred my pivot point to be a little deeper in. That's just the feel that I prefer. Something that is noticeably different on, like, say, an Aurora from High-Tech. And while I could have done some modifications to get them to sink a little bit deeper, it's just a slightly different feel. I'm sure I'll get used to it. I've had some stick time with them already, obviously, and I'm doing fine adjusting to them. But overall, they feel very smooth. They're very precise, and very, very happy with that. So thank you, my lovely wife. Another project I've been working on over the break has been, I love snow. And I haven't had a snow plane in a couple of years, and last year was a bust for snow in my area. We got one snowfall and it was like here and gone. So I 3D printed some skis for my Goldberg Eagle 2, and I took it out and had 2 flights with it. It's so much fun. The 3D printed skis worked perfectly, and I couldn't be happier. I look forward to more snow, and it's so fun just to taxi it around and watch it go. It handles so well, and there's no grooves on the bottom of it to help with steering, or it goes. You point it where you want it to go, and it goes there. So if you haven't tried that before, I highly recommend it. It's a very different experience. Landing was bouncy. You would go in, it would bounce and bounce and bounce, and eventually it would settle on the ground. But it was different and something new, and I'm glad that I tried it. And you should too. It's a lot of fun. In other news, I have made some progress on the Corsair, and I'll start with the horizontal stabilizer. It's just like the vertical stabilizer, only it's been glassed. I got some fiberglass from my Secret Santa this year. Thank you, Brian. And I've glassed the surfaces and sanded them back, so a little bit of dust still just to prove that they have been sanded. But overall, the stabilizers are ready for some panel lines and primer when I feel like it. Also is the control surfaces for the tail, the rudder and the elevators. They have been covered. I prefer to use Solartex, which has a texture to it like a linen fabric, which the Corsair used on its control surfaces. So it's a little bit more scale. It's a little bit heavier than most iron-on coverings, so I did incorporate some lightening holes into it. Just use my Dremel tool quickly on those. Last but not least, we have the Corsair wing. I have been making a lot of good progress on this. You'll note that I have the 100, these are 100 degree Robart pneumatic retracts, and they do turn 90 degrees, and those are installed. One thing I will note is that the original person who had constructed this wing, just the framework, you can see the joint here. These are supposed to overlap. They're supposed to be like a gusset here, and it's just a simple butt joint. So what I did was I cut some slots with my Dremel tool and insert some carbon fiber and epoxied them in just to make it strong, and I've been able to lift the whole length of the wing off of just the outer panel. And here's the other hand. I'm holding the whole wing up. It's quite strong now. I feel very confident, and I did that in the leading edge as well as the trailing edge on both sides. So that's the update on the Corsair. I'm to the point where I can move on to the wing with the instructions in the manual. So I believe the next thing is to start sheeting the wing. So I want to make sure that I go over the instructions for the sheeting from beginning to end before I start that, to make sure that I don't miss anything, number one, but also in case I want to plan ahead for something, such as droppable fuel tanks in the root of the wing. I can print off some of my release mechanisms for that and see how I want to incorporate those. So the last thing I want to do to close out this video is to thank a bunch of people. First, I want to thank Hobby King. Hobby King was a company that I reached out to for a possible sponsorship, and they said, you know what, your Bugatti project looks awesome, let's go with that. And it turned out to be a huge success. It was a lot of fun. It was very, very difficult. It's definitely one of the most challenging projects I've had. The airplane flies great, even though it's only flown twice, but I couldn't have done it without Hobby King. They pitched in so much to help that. I mean, financially, yes, but it was a big boost to help me feel good about the project, that I was going in the right direction, that they could contribute some things. And then the community pitched in even more to help me during the hard times, the challenging times, to get that project built, completed. We had a lot of fun talking about it with lots of different people at Flight Fest, and it's been just a great experience. Next, I want to thank Grayson Hobby. They are a wonderful company that, a small family-owned company that they're good guys. And they reached out to me to do a build video for the Dynam B-26 Marauder, and I had a lot of fun with that, but I also learned a lot. Learned a lot about shooting video, doing an instructional video, and having it formatted in a certain way, and it was really good to have that experience, and something that it doesn't really come across very well on film, that I just learned a ton from it. And I think moving forward, there are things that I want to try again, given the opportunities. But Grayson also wanted to help sponsor the Corsair project, and a lot of you guys may not know what goes into the electronics for a larger build, like a 60 size or even a 90 size airplane. But when you do it electric, things need to be a little bit more robust. This isn't just your average park flyer, and if you crash, you may have like a bent prop shaft or something. I mean, you can have fires if these crash, so you want something very reliable, and you pay for those things, those good quality parts. And I really thank Grayson for doing that. But I also thank all of you guys in the community for supporting me in this project. The Corsair is a project that I started as a kid, and it intimidated me so much in the crash from that build when I was a kid. It got me out of the hobby, and doing this it's like retribution for me. So your support is egging me along to get the project done, and it's difficult for you to see the progress because it's not a composite build. Balsa builds just naturally build slower. You have to be more careful because it's one little part and one little part, and if they're not all aligned, then you have problems. So thank you all for your continued support and your comments and all of your feedback to me in various ways in the flight test forums and RC groups. You guys are just inspiring to me that I can build this. And riding the wave of the current enthusiasm for balsa building has just been a really fun experience to be with other wonderful builders, much better than me. But it's something to look forward for 2018. 2017 is over. 2018 has so much more to look forward to, and I look forward to sharing it with you guys. So we'll see you on the next time.